Hello everyone. In this lecture, the first operation we are going to have a look at is the erosion operation. So now, let us go ahead and see how to create the code for an erosion technique. So, for the erosion technique, let's create a variable called img_err, and inside this, let's assign the cv2.erode function. This function takes in 3 arguments. The first argument is going to be our source image. The second argument will be our kernel. This kernel is a structured element which we created just in the previous step. So the variable here is going to be kernel. The third argument is going to be the number of times the erosion technique is going to be applied to our image. For the time being, let us set the number of times this technique is going to be applied as 3. Once you guys are finished with the technique, you guys can go ahead, try changing the number of times or the iterations to be precise, and see how the output changes. So let's run it. Good, we have gotten no error. Now let us go ahead and create the code for displaying the original image as well as our eroded image. By now, you guys are already an expert in this process. So as you can see, I have created the code. Let's execute it and see our output. So as you guys can see, on the top left, you can see the original image, and somewhat near it, you can see our eroded image. You can clearly see the difference between the two images. So now, why don't you guys go ahead, try changing the number of iterations as I had mentioned earlier, and see how the image varies. So now, on to our second operation, which is the dilation operation. Let us have a look at how the programming of a dilation operation is carried out. So for this operation, at this very moment, I will be using the original image. I'm not going to be using the eroded image. But after we have finished using the original image, you guys can go ahead, try using the eroded image, and also try changing the number of iterations the dilation technique is applied. So let's create a variable called img_dil and assign the cv2.dilate function to this. Like the previous erode function, the dilate function takes in 3 arguments. The first argument being our source image, the second argument being our kernel, and the third argument will be the iterations. As usual, I'm going to be setting the number of iterations to 3. Like I said, once we have finished executing this operation and displaying the image, you guys can go ahead, try changing the number of iterations, and instead of using the original image, try using the eroded image to see how the output varies. So let's run this code to make sure there is no error. Now let us go ahead and create the code for displaying the original image as well as a dilated image. So as you can see, I have already created the code. So let's execute it and see our output. As you guys can see on your screen, there is a huge difference between the original image as well as a dilated image. So like I mentioned before, imagine if you had used the eroded image. What could the difference be? Go ahead and try it out. Thank you. See you guys in the next lecture.